Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, wherever in the world you may be joining us from today. My name is Francesco Del Carpio, and I am the CFA York Operations Coordinator. I would like to officially open the fourth session of the Unboxing the SDGs for People, Planet, Prosperity, Peace, and Partnership speaker series. The series is presented in partnership with the SDGs in the Classroom Community of Practice at York University. I would like to begin today with a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge and recognize that many Indigenous nations have longstanding relationships with the territory upon which our campuses are located that precede the establishment of York University. The area is known as Takaranto and has been caretaken by the Anishinaabe Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Huron-Wendat. It is now home to many First Nation, Inuit, and Métis communities. We acknowledge the current treaty holders, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and that the territory is subject to the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement to peaceably share and care for the Great Lakes region. As this is an online event, our participants may be joining from various locations, so I strongly encourage you to learn about the traditional land upon which you are located. With this, I welcome our moderator, our speaker, and our participants from around the world. Welcome to our webinar. It is now my great pleasure to introduce our moderator today, Matthias de Davitis. A strong advocate for public education, Matthias has created and supported programs to help youth achieve better academic potential, including tutoring programs, bursaries, student placements, and leadership programs, and other initiatives that have helped thousands of students over the last 20 years. He was elected to the TDSB school board this last fall, the first Latinx to hold that position in 25 years. Matthias currently works for City of Toronto Councillor at City Hall, Anthony Perusa, as Chief of Staff. He graduated from the University of Toronto with a double major in political science and Latin American studies, and has a Master of Arts in political science from the University of Alberta. Matthias, thank you very much for moderating today's session. The floor is yours.
Hey, thank you once again for having me take part in today's webinar. It's my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, but before I do that, a quick housekeeping things. As we listen to the presentation, we'll have an opportunity after for a question and answer session, and we ask folks to drop their questions in the Q&A button or ask a comment. Alternatively, if you did want to come off mute, you can raise your hand and we'll try and get to you if the time allows as well. So thanks again, everyone, for being here. And it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Minna Allarakhia. Dr. Allarakhia is co-founder of BioEndeavor. BioEndeavor is the not-for-profit organization that seeks to empower youth and educators through global citizenship. And BioEndeavor's mission is to connect the UN Sustainable Development Goals to the STEAM curriculum, including through green innovation, design, and entrepreneurship, empowering youth to take a leading role on sustainable development and climate action through innovation. BioEndeavor's work with educators and parents to create meaningful learning experiences based on purpose for the whole student. And with that, my pleasure to ask Minna to start the presentation.
Thank you, Matthias. Thank you, Francesco. Thank you, everyone. Just share my screen. Francesco, you can see the slides?
Yep, it looks good.
Okay, perfect. I just set up the chat. Okay. I will walk you through this presentation from to share what we do at BioEndeavor, what our goal is behind the Purposeful Learning curriculum. We'll start with our elementary school programming, look at what we've introduced with respect to secondary school students into post-secondary school, what I've actually implemented at the University of Waterloo. The goal is to leverage the SDGs and to bring purpose actually into the classroom. We started this programming and development 5 years ago, around the time of the pandemic. This is very near and dear to us, not only for me as an educator, but also as a parent. Within our education system, teachers tend to start the school year discussing the fixed mindset and comparatively analyzing what is meant by the growth mindset, the idea that people with a growth mindset enjoy challenges, learning opportunities, and skill set development, teaching our students the idea of perseverance. What we've done at BioEndeavor, as have other researchers and academics, is developed and focused on the purpose mindset that we do need to consider, and students do need to consider from the youngest of ages, from grade 1 onwards, the impact of their learning activities and the creation of broader value for their peers and communities. If we're to truly include students, then we need to do it from their perspectives, consider the whole student. And if we consider the whole student, place-based education is important. What does purpose look like in the classroom? We know it as global citizenship, and certainly the SDGs provide a phenomenal framework for that. Students need to understand what is it that they're learning and the purpose behind this. The classroom provides the perfect starting point as early as grade 1. I know, and I have children who have asked this. Students often complain that they don't learn anything that's relevant to their lives during the formative primary school years. And then this can actually continue into the secondary school years, particularly when we're considering math, physics. Some of these disciplines require a more overt strategy to connect what they're learning to the outside world. Where am I going to use statistics? We know as academics that this is a vital discipline. Students need to see this during the formative years. Increasingly, global challenges may transform this idea, this sentiment in terms of bringing real world challenges into the classroom. What we need to do is engage both students and educators, and this is what we do at BioEndeavor. Our programming targets students, but we're increasingly developing professional development workshops to expose and to collaborate with educators in bringing the purposeful learning mindset, but also to increasingly make a connection between the new STEM curriculum and the SDGs. It isn't a matter that we are simply introducing the SDGs, but we are trying to easily integrate this across science, math, the arts, literacy, technology, and engineering. Behind this is considerable research looking at the impact of purpose on student academic ability, on resilience. One quote that I picked up from Berkeley, The Greater Good in Education, is that students with more purposeful goals find their schoolwork more meaningful, probably because they can see how it relates to their future aspirations and tend to have higher academic achievement. A feeling of purpose in life even seems to protect students from potentially negative influences in their environment and certainly salient during the post-secondary years. So we considered how the purposeful mindset could actually be leveraged in the school. How could students find meaning in their work? And we need to build a connection to future professional activities. It is imperative that we begin this conversation earlier. Right now, we have the career and civics class at grade 10, but BioEndeavor is aiming to expose students to these conversations and engage students as early as grade 7. It isn't enough to engage students. We need educators also to see the connection between STEM, STEAM, and purpose. For that reason, we have actually developed a comprehensive professional development series. How can schools engage the larger community? There's no better way to bring purpose and a connection to the SDGs than connecting to the immediate community. Equally, how can principals and our school boards embed the purpose mindset across its programs, leveraging place-based education? Sorry, I won't be able to, because I've got the show, I won't be able to show you the cards, but if you're interested in this learning box, please feel free to email me. What we did is created the Purposeful Learning Box for educators, allowing students and teachers to collaboratively design projects. This can be passion projects, end of module, um, assessment projects, students can think about what they want to learn, how do they want to learn, what tools do they need in order to learn, why does this matter to them, why does this matter to their community, so that we can start making these real world connections. Students and educators can jointly use this box to actually craft out these passion projects or end of module projects, assessment projects. I would be happy to share the cards and the organizing template if you are interested. Across the next few slides, I'll actually share example modules that we have crafted at BioEndeavor and that we've implemented as part of after-school activities. I've actually been working with students over 3 years to test these types of modules, and as much as they learn, I have actually grown as an educator with them. The connections have been made across science, math, culture, technology, even social entrepreneurship. With respect to science, we might explore how to design eco-friendly materials. We may use biomimicry so that students can use the principles of biomimicry and make connections to even artificial intelligence and robot design. We might look at materials, processes, and e-waste. Students have designed social robots that can be implemented and used in the education system. Social robots that can actually be used in long-term care facilities for patients that have dementia. And it is amazing when we give students the tools and when we empower students and their voices, how bright and brilliant they really are. I've been amazed at the solutions that students have been able to design, the thoughtfulness of the discussions. They need to feel that they have a voice at the table, and this is what we have tried to do through these through the design of these modules. When it comes to math, we don't use drill math. We've actually used a variety of strategies. The The first module, A World of Math Exploring Ancient Civilizations, was equally an eye opener for me. We looked across, many of my students are here, but they come from Africa, and this is where our family actually comes from East Africa. So we related the math curriculum to mathematical achievements, historical achievements across Africa. Some of you may or may not know that the oldest fragment mathematical tool actually comes from Africa. I believe it is one comes from the DRC, another comes from South Africa. In that module, just as a practical outcome, we found that one of the bones that was actually used, an animal bone that was used as a calendar, it had etchings on it. It had 28 etchings. Historians actually think that this provides evidence that the first mathematicians were actually women on Earth that were using this bone to actually track their cycles. This was an eye-opener for all of us and something that students took away with them. Math for Good, if I want to teach data management, we actually look at the idea of animals, those that are facing extinction. Some of these conversations are intense, but students respond to them. We look historically at extinction periods and what is happening in the current period. Math and science, we had a wonderful time when FIFA was taking place, trying to use historical data to predict. Nothing worked out when we were making those predictions, but certainly an enjoyable experience. We looked at the physics of soccer in that module. Making the connections to the SDGs. Agents for Change looked at the idea of biology and food waste, looked at, I'm thinking at the chemistry behind the idea of, I'm just trying to remember, the idea of cooking and air pollution and chemistry, how women are impacted health-wise, how our environment is actually impacted by the cooking techniques and the technology that actually is available to women across the world. We use science to solve big problems, including how to design our cities, thinking about the Internet of Things, connected cities. How is it that we plan for our energy transition? And they're very astute. Some students as young as age 9 are able to tell me whether or not they believe electric vehicles or fuel cell vehicles will actually be, which one of these technologies will be adopted first. And they're able to tell me based on human behavior. They anticipate that fuel cell vehicles will actually, in the long run, be a more viable solution. It doesn't matter age. When we give students a voice, when we teach them how to do the necessary research, they're able to actually discuss issues as you and I would. I connected social entrepreneurship and math again, and we were working on supporting our Afghan refugees with starting school and starting school well equipped. We did shopping on Amazon, and they actually designed a backpack for our Afghan refugees. Another example is, and I thoroughly enjoyed this, we don't always have the opportunity based on our discipline to do this type of research. When it came to climate change, we were looking historically at what was taking place across various planets. Again, historically, looking at the runaway greenhouse effect on Venus. Whether Mars actually can offer us answers. We looked at Saturn's moon Titan. Again, looking at issues that we might simply assess on Earth. This was a phenomenal experience, and you can see in the middle is where we brought all of our learning together. When it comes to writing, it isn't simply about literacy. We use writing to influence others. My students, I have a grade 11 student writing, age 11 student. She's writing a grant. Francesco, you and I are writing grants. She's writing a grant, the TD Friends of the Environment grant, to actually bring a garden to her church, taking advantage of place-based education and connecting to her community so that the entirety of her church can participate in the gardening, and they can address food insecurity. They can address loneliness for not only students, find a solution for bullying so that maybe this is an opportunity for peer-to-peer learning, as well as engaging the elder members of their church. Arts, social studies were connected through Black History Month, enabling for students to actually connect to their own history, their people, their culture, art, and music. When it came to Black History Month, mother came to me and said, please, don't address Black History Month in the traditional ways. We are tired of the discussion on slavery. So I said, okay, let's do a tour throughout Africa. And this is where we made a connection to the SDGs and STEM, and we looked for the scientists, the engineers, we looked for the artists across Africa. Our students each took 3 or 4 countries, and we did this research. And here is where you can see the Ishango bone, what I was referring to. The Shujwa stories were phenomenal. Looking historically at action, heroes and heroines that were very influenced social development, society development. We looked at water filtration in Tanzania, looking at entrepreneurs. There was another looking at astronomical observatories that are beyond Europe, and even the idea that we did historical analysis to understand how history has actually been rewritten, that much of Fibonacci's work took place in the northern parts of Africa. They were able to assess and evaluate why history has actually been rewritten. The idea that Ibn Sina, you may know this as Avicenna, this manuscript was used in Europe in medical schools up till the 18th century. It's imperative as an educator and working with minorities and as a parent, a minority parent myself, that we make sure that our voices, that our histories are represented in the school system. And this is why we are trying to bridge together STEAM with the SDGs. This was another module we did, is the connections. Again, another eye-opener for myself and students. Here I wanted them to look at the Silk Road, the connections across the Middle East and Africa. We looked at the merchants that traveled across Africa, what they were selling, what they were trading. We were looking at, this is a pyramid in Kano City, the groundnut pyramid that I learned about through my own students. We learned the connection between the Han Dynasty, countries across Asia, Northern Africa, and the Mediterranean. I'm from, and we talked about equity-related issues, identity-related issues. My family is from Tanzania. We generationally have been from East Africa. We migrated from Pakistan to, my grandparents migrated from Pakistan to East Africa. When I posed the question to them and told them that you can consider me also African, but you probably will not, you might not believe me offhand if I say this. Why might you not believe that I'm also African? They were thoughtful and said, because we'll look at your skin color first. We won't believe you because of your skin color. And they themselves, as young as grade 9, were able to say, but that's wrong. We are making assumptions that are not right. And we need to be more thoughtful in terms of identity discussions. And I said that there has never been a moment that I haven't been so impressed by the conversations they are able to have and be able to critique where they themselves as minorities may be making mistakes. And this is what we need to bring into, these are the conversations that we need to bring into the classroom. It begins with the students. It begins with their connection to the SDGs, and then it extends to what's taking place in the local community, what challenges they themselves might be facing in their families, food insecurity, economic issues. Many of my students talk about quality of education. They're very honest about whether or not the education system is meeting their needs, how they wish to see the education system change. Place-based education allows for mentorship, allows for entrepreneurship as well, social entrepreneurship, and it allows, if we've got community gardens at school, then here's an opportunity to engage the older members of our community. This goes to multiple SDGs, food insecurity, poverty, health issues, and students become leaders in this process. We used math and we worked with One Tree Planted. They came as guest speakers. Students traveled across the world using the One Tree Planted platform, and they were able to decide where they wanted to plant the trees. We looked at biodiversity-related issues. We looked at community-related issues, and they decided where they actually wanted to plant the trees, and One Tree Planted is phenomenal. They send these certificates to the students. It's a source of pride for the students that they actually did this. So instead of giving gifts to students, let's say on Valentine's Day, students and my son offer these as gifts. It's a matter of activation, enabling our students to become innovators in this process. And what we've started seeing is while our elementary students are engaged, there's a more critical issue when we move into middle school and high school. I see it. My daughter was in grade 12. It took over 12 months of research to zero in on the right major for her. The amount of research that I personally did with her and she has done, looking at schools, looking at majors, looking at entrepreneurship opportunities, what universities offer her the opportunity to have a larger experience. It's an intense process, and we know it when you're in the education system. Can we start this process earlier so that students are exposed to, we've done nanotechnology, we've done AI, we've done material science this past year. We've engaged the United Nations as well. I have colleagues through CFAL that were working with us. They've actually done a pitch deck to enable our colleagues, Bees and Trees in Uganda, empower women when it comes to beekeeping. We actually used AI. There was a platform where you could have a virtual avatar serving as a venture capitalist. They, through this process, used AI to actually generate a pitch deck, which we then gave to our colleagues in Uganda. We are trying to do this independently as BioEndeavor, but also bringing this type of mentorship into the school system. And this is where our partnership exists with CFAL York. We've started through the Toronto District School Board last year to engage students on wicked problems, soft skill development, and career planning around the SDGs. We don't use any technology. It's just markers and newsprint. And we gamify this so that they can get access to mentorship opportunities with BioEndeavor in under 75 minutes, 45 minutes, 50 minutes in the elementary system. It is amazing how quickly they fill the page. They're able to focus in on problems that are important to them, to their community, and are actually able to make the connections between the SDGs. I ask them, what are the connections? As young as grade 6, again, in under 45 minutes, they're actually able to make a connection between city planning, health, climate change, climate adaptation, and mitigation. We tried this out at the middle school level, and they did an excellent job as well. We're starting to make the connection to career planning. How is it that we had someone as an example in trades? She's going to culinary school, and she said, but how do the SDGs actually matter to me? So I engaged in that conversation, and I said, think about your menu. Think about this from a health perspective. How can you actually green your menu? How can you differentiate yourself as a restaurateur by having a more healthier options on your menu? She lit up. I could see that because I had made the connection to purpose, and I showed her that this is an opportunity for a business opportunity for you. She could see this as future success. So then we backtracked and said, now let's look at the schools that'll actually offer you these opportunities. Which schools are making the sustainability connections, are making the health connections? And this is what we're trying to do through these SDG brainstorms, is have students think about STEM for good. How do you use STEM in while you're learning? Which schools offer these opportunities, be it through co-op, research opportunities, internships, the majors they offer, the minors they offer, the certificates. How can you do this at a community level? How can you do this as an entrepreneur while you are at university? And even to think about global opportunities for, there are a number of global placements that are offered through universities. There are a number of NGOs that offer this as well across Africa and Asia. So up till now, we have been doing the SDG brainstorm through CFAL York and the school boards. But what we want to do increasingly in the new year is to engage educators. The same thing that we do, the SDG brainstorm, is actually to gamify it for teachers, is to walk them through the community problems, have teachers make the connection to the SDGs, and then, the idea of leveraging the principles of design thinking rapidly in under an hour and a half, to actually make the connections across STEAM and so the curriculum that they already offer and the SDGs, is not to make it cumbersome, to make this a 90-minute process so that they can quickly make mind map, is make those connections to the STEAM curriculum. Sometimes it's just a matter of one extra question that they have in their projects, or an end of term project where they can make these types of connections, where they can do hands-on activities. And I'm hoping in that respect that they themselves are energized in the curriculum delivery. CFA York and BioEndeavor are working to develop a global map of teaching resources. CFA York already has this, along with BioEndeavor on one of their pages. But as we engage students, particularly students, we want students' work to be on that global map so that teachers themselves can become more comfortable and see the value of the flipped classroom. We can no longer ask teachers we can't keep pace with all of the technological developments and changes taking place. AI is one example. AI is overwhelming. There are challenges ahead. At the same time, it is a phenomenal discipline that connects directly to the SDGs. Well, that this is an opportunity for our students to bring what they know about AI and to become innovators. So we started creating this this global map on BioEndeavor, and we'll hopefully replicate this through CFAL York as we extend our workshops and our professional development for teachers so that these teaching resources are readily available and that even students can access these resources. BioEndeavor is actually developing a repository of videos and lesson plans on climate change. It's about 26 videos, and we're halfway through those videos. They're on our website, on our YouTube channel, so that not only are these short videos there, but there's a whole lesson plan for teachers, and students can essentially independently pursue those projects. We suggest presentations and community connections through those lesson plans. Finally, at the secondary level, which is where it actually started, it has always been important to me to make the connections to sustainability, corporate social responsibility, ethical leadership. All of my courses have leveraged, because I teach in the management sciences program, the Harvard case studies. I pick the case studies that bring forward ethical dilemmas. We've used change management simulations. Harvard Publishing has change management simulations that look at the idea of implementing sustainability initiatives within organizations. And the idea is to build a skill set for my students. How do you implement this? How do you bring everyone to the table? How do you appease your retailers when they may or may not be putting pressure on an organization to make the necessary changes? So the idea of change management that's proactive versus reactive. Students very much enjoy this real world learning. I've had innovation simulations, supply chain management simulations, so that we can extend the learning process and the discussions that we partake in across the semester. And just as we are doing this in the post-secondary environment, it's important to also think about the inner development goals, particularly for our high school students. The idea of respect for themselves, respect for others, respect for diversity, communication, empathy, holistic thinking, and leadership. So in our Ontario system, we have the specialized high skills majors, the SHISMs. As part of those SHISMs, there's a sectored partner experience. Now, BioEndeavor has now started working in the York District School Board to offer, and Francesco, I've just spoken to you about this, the sectored partner experience. There's the 6 hours workshops. The climate literacy and the sustainability literacy is just being introduced through these sectored partnered experiences. So we've started designing ones on ethical leadership. The idea, the lawsuits that have been taking place in the United States, high school students have been bringing lawsuits against the state when it comes to air pollution and their rights, when it comes to addressing climate change. We're addressing using design thinking and circular design in the fashion industry. I just did one in Richmond Hill that looked at the idea of city design. There was someone from the city of Richmond Hill that introduced a component of this. I charged the students with designing cities. They used Sustainable City Index to comparatively look at what is taking place across Canada, across Europe, to design their cities. How do we incorporate green spaces, and why is this actually a matter of health and well-being? In this respect, we're developing the climate and sustainability literacy, but we're also developing the soft skills. And it's here that really resiliency exists. Food for thought, what I will leave you with is what more can we do in the post-secondary system? Is this idea, now we've got certificates in sustainability. Waterloo also has this. BioEndeavor has actually been developing a Science of Purpose certificate. And I've been pondering, how is it that we can actually introduce this at the beginning, at first year, for first year students, as part of student success, so that we talk about these issues, purpose and thinking big, so that it allows students to make the connections across the full university, college, whatever it is that students are doing. They can see that it's not just a matter of the courses, but everything else that's within the institutions, so that they live a bigger, more holistic and healthier experience in our universities, and so that we can emphasize the value added for the post-secondary experience, making sure that as students engage in co-op and research-driven experiences, that there is a mandatory component that connects to the SDGs, that when they are completing their reports at Waterloo, for example, through their co-op reports, that there is a connection to the SDGs, that they actually introduce the SDGs in a limited way to their employers. Many employers are not aware of the value of the SDGs to their own activities, including their value chains. And then there's also the idea of learning with and from our community. Waterloo has funding opportunity for students and staff to be able to drive climate change and sustainability. So I've suggested it a number of times, why is it that you just don't bring a garden onto our property, a greenhouse? This is something that works for our students. It's a matter of mindfulness, mental health and well-being. And during the spring and summer months, that we can actually bring community members, elder members of our community, and this then becomes about their well-being, but connection between our students and elder members of our community. Multiple times participants have said, we should do this, but it's just a matter of finding one sponsor that can lead this, and the students would wholeheartedly take advantage of this, and this then becomes part of their co-curricular record. This is one I'll actually leave with you. I would be happy to discuss this because I've introduced it at Waterloo and the conversations didn't progress, but certainly I'm open to discussing this with any collaborators. The idea of how do we actually broaden the definition of sustainability and add the innovation aspect. Innovation is something that is very important to me. I teach this at the secondary level and have introduced this to elementary and increasingly to secondary school students. How do we do this quickly and so that we can limit the amount of resources and the time required to see the certificate available to our students? So something like this, 5-day courses. University of Toronto, Mississauga actually has a certificate on its campus. It isn't a credit-based certificate, so it was easier to get this approved. And what they do is 3 mandatory courses related to sustainability, and then electives. I think the students need to do, I'm not too sure, it's between 3 and 5 courses that they need to do. So I was thinking, why not we develop this with respect to innovation? The same thing. 5-day course taught by graduate students, faculty, or industry guest speakers. It limits the time component. The overall focus is on innovation, case-based analysis, maybe one experiential learning opportunity that students would have to design. 2 core courses that are based on interdisciplinary perspectives on sustainability, and then designing and innovating for sustainability. So here we're making the connection to product service development and the circular economy. These electives then could easily become part and parcel of training for graduate students or PhD students. They can come to share their research, at the same time build their communication and teaching skills. Um, and it allows our students also, undergraduate students, to think about career opportunities. One student just graduated from Waterloo. At the end of her 4 years, 5 years, she said, "Do you know that we haven't been exposed to sustainability? We have no idea what career opportunities exist." I was surprised by this. And sometimes it's just a matter of working in silos. Here's an opportunity through this type of certificate to provide a more nuanced perspective. It isn't just a matter of energy transition. Sustainability is a very large umbrella concept, and we need to expose all of the dimensions to our students and then bring our PhD, our graduate students, in closer contact with our undergraduate students so that they share their research and the career opportunities. So that takes us through the full journey. Here is my email address. You're more than welcome. And Mateus and Francesco both have my email address. You're more than welcome to contact me to explore ideas, collaborations, even through the work we do with CFAL York. I'll turn it back to you, Mateus.
Thank you, Minna, and thank you for the detailed presentation. I've done a few of these, and there's a lot of material in this one. So thank you very much for that. We're going to open it up for questions if folks have them. And I see one in the chat, so I can start on with this one. This one's anonymous, but it's what long-term impacts do you hope to see from students who have been educated with a focus on the SDGs?
Critical thinking, building the innovation capacity and creative thinking, and making them also more not only comfortable with the SDGs, but how is it that technology can actually be used to implement the SDGs. So one example is using AI for good. Is not to shy away from AI, but to see this as a tool that can be used for good, that can be used as a tool for equity. So it's this comfort with technology, their ability to critically think and design these solutions.
Yeah, and I was thinking through that as you gave some of the examples about students sort of workshopping different elements around, say, African history and its relationship
Yes.
to science and so on. What's the importance of centering the learning around the students' own experience as you try and sort of sharpen your tools, your pedagogical tools around the whole concept?
It's part of this is equity, right? At its finest, is to bring student voices. We are starting to see this. Let me talk about it from a personal perspective. This is where it started. It's not only from the students, but even my son. Some of the higher high school courses, the variety of literature that they're being exposed to is excellent. The AP classes introduce them to a variety of literature. We're starting to see this in the middle school so that students can relate to others' history. And I'm hoping, Mateus, in that when they see themselves, their own history in others' history. When I've been talking about, take for example, environmental stewardship. Environmental stewardship is part and parcel of many cultures. Islam, we can even look at it from a religious perspective, in the Islamic, from Islam, Hindus, Buddhists. We have so much to learn from our indigenous partners. It's collectively bringing this together so that they can see the connections. And it can be done through literature, through history, through social studies. The math module that we did was phenomenal, is, to see the identity emerge through that math module as well. There's no reason we can't look at historically who have been the innovators across STEM and how do we correct history.
And that's such an important part, right? To embed the science, which most of us got through textbooks,
Yes.
and as one way sort of information flows, and other elements as part of what sustainability means. And I think that's a really significant element that I wanted to rescue from what you were discussing and sharing with us. And it's such an important component of having that sort of student-focused pedagogical
Yes.
approach that it can provide us with those very rich sort of responses as you described. So very happy to see some of that, and I definitely want to personally follow up with you over the summer on some of this.
Wonderful. Absolutely.
Sort of being in the same jurisdiction, I know we have folks from all over the country and all over the world here. So with that, Francesco, I know we're running up on the clock. I don't know if you had any other questions or comments on this.
Put my email address here.
No, but yeah, thank you, Minna, for that great presentation. Thank you just for sharing your email there in the chat. There were a few people asking about it, so yeah, it's great for you to share it there. So as a reminder as well, the session is being recorded and it is being posted on our YouTube channel. So please, if you'd like to refer back to the presentation, or see Minna's email, it was there at the start of the presentation as well. So if you'd like to find her contact information there, yeah, please feel free to refer to that video. I don't think I have any questions myself. That was a great presentation though.
Thank you.
So thank you so much. Maybe because we've been working on some of this stuff together, so I kind of
Absolutely.
already know it. But yeah, it was great to see it all laid out there from beginning to end. And so
Thank you.
yeah, if there's no other questions from the audience, maybe we can just start wrapping up. Unless Matthias, if you have anything else to add before we do.
No, again, just to thank Minna for being so open and wanting to share some of these tools. That's exactly what we need in order to reach sort of better sustainability practices in our schools and with our youth, so that they learn all the things that they need to create
Yes.
a better world, all the things that maybe we didn't have access to. So great materials, great presentations. So again, thank you, Minna.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for having me, Matthias and Francesco. I'm glad the opportunity arose.
Yeah, thank you so much. So yeah, just with that, then I'd just like to echo my thanks. Thank you so much. That was a great presentation. Thank you, Matthias, again for moderating this session and for collaborating with us on this series thus far. And of course, thank you to everybody in the audience for being here, participating. And I hope you've all learned a lot and taken a lot away from today's presentation. It was great to see some messages of thanks there in the chat as well. So I'm glad that people enjoyed the presentation today. So with that, I'm just going to quickly share my screen just to show that we do have 2 more sessions in this series left. This is a 6-session series that is bi-weekly. So in 2 weeks, on Monday, July 8th, we will be having session number 5, which is presented by our own members here at York University, 2 professors in the teaching stream here who are also part of the community of practice that we are partnering with on this series. So yeah, if this is of interest to you, please mark it down on your calendar. Please share it in your networks. The registration is always open and free for these sessions. So yeah, please just keep that in mind. The presenters are Dr. Carolyn Steele and Dr. Sandra Peniston, who are both assistant professors in the teaching stream here at York University in humanities and in faculty of health. And they will be speaking on 2 related but independent topics: embedding equity, diversity, and social justice into the curriculum of a digital humanities class. And Dr. Peniston will be speaking on integrating sustainable development goals into nursing education, empowering nurses as catalysts for change. So again, if that is of interest to you, please mark that on your calendar, and we will always send out the reminders via email like we usually do if you're already registered. So with that, just one last big thanks to everybody. We really appreciate you all taking the time to be here and sharing your experience, Minna, and those in the chat for participating. So with
Thank you.
that, I hope everybody has a great day. Thank you so much.